Hello everyone and welcome back to Fantasy Football Fix. My name's FPL Phillips and welcome to your Game Week 15 episode of your quick guide. The series where we're going to be looking at the top captaincy pick now that Erling Haaland could be out for this game week, as well as the top 10 predicted point scorers that the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm has predicted for this upcoming game week. We're also then going to be looking at the best fixtures ranked for Game Week 15 and Game Week 16 for both attackers and defensive players, so that you guys can pick some of the best players with the teams to target and which players I'd recommend going for some of those teams so you can optimize your transfer plans for the next 2 weeks. So let's get into it, shall we? And kick things off with the captaincies. And what we're acting on here is basically the assumption that Erling Haaland is going to be out for Game Week 15. Otherwise, he would be in this comparison, and I think that I'm going to captain him, and I'd recommend captaining him if there's any sort of real evidence that he could get minutes in Game Week 15. He is that kind of player that you just have to have the armband on him. Even if he's going to get 45, 50 minutes, I'd put the armband on Erling Haaland. I think it is worth that risk, if you can call it a risk, captaining Erling Haaland. But we've gone with 3 other options that I think could offer potential other captaincy picks for this game week. And I know a lot of people at the moment, certainly the template looks like having Erling Haaland and Mo Salah as the premium, so too many people are going to own KDB or Harry Kane right now. Their ownership at 33% and 25% respectively for the Belgian and the Englishman. But they offer a potential captaincy pick there, as does João Cancelo, who is much more popular owned, and especially his effective ownership will be very high up inside the top 100k. And so we're having a look at these 3 in the captain matrix that we use every week to compare these assets against each other. But it's Kevin De Bruyne who comes out on top for predicted points and quite a way ahead of the other 2 on 7.9 for Game Week 15. And that Fulham fixture looks like a very nice game to target at home for Manchester City against a defence with 1.89 expected goals conceded per 90 minutes, leaves it even more in favour of going for Kevin De Bruyne, especially with that Manchester City expected goals total as a team per 90 minutes of 2.05, a very, very nice figure for them. In terms of expected FPL points per 90, it's actually Harry Kane who's the best of the 3 on 6.81, De Bruyne in second on 6.53, and Cancelo on 5.92. But all of Cancelo's attacking returns, the 4 I think he's got so far this season, have come in home games, which is an interesting statistic. So if there's any chance to go for a Cancelo captaincy pick, I think a home fixture is going to be one to target, and we do have a nice home fixture this week in Game Week 15 for them, as mentioned, which is against Fulham. So I think Cancelo could offer a decent captain pick this week, and potentially even captaining him over the likes of Mohamed Salah. If you own Salah and Haaland at the moment but are going to keep Haaland even if he's out, then you could potentially stick the armband on João Cancelo for a little bit of a differential amongst some more high-ranked teams at the moment who I assuming won't be going for João Cancelo. So, it can pay off at times. We've seen Cancelo outscore some of the Man City attackers in games prior, and it has paid off big time. So it is a bit of a risk to go against the Man City attack when they're playing a defence that is so poor. You're just banking on Cancelo hopefully getting forward and offering something going forward on top of a clean sheet, so an attacking return plus a clean sheet, and you're going to get a pretty decent haul for Cancelo. That should do you quite nicely. So I suppose it's got a lower baseline score, or a higher baseline score I should say, for Cancelo, but the potential for KDB to go big is huge, and having him in your team could be very valuable. I think the problem that's going to be with De Bruyne at the moment is not many people are going to be shifting on Salah with bigger fires in their teams, and if we're downgrading Erling Haaland to upgrade another midfielder, not many people have 2 free transfers just to spare like that at the moment, and a -4 to remove Erling Haaland doesn't sound very tempting to me. So I think the limit is going to be, if you've got De Bruyne, captain him right now, but most people just aren't going to be able to get to De Bruyne for this game week with relative ease, with the likes of Tony out, Mitrovic with a tough fixture against Manchester City, all these players who are doubts, injury worries, suspended, etc., that we have to prioritise transferring out before we can afford luxury moves like switching our premiums across with 2 free transfers. So yeah, that's my analysis on the captaincy. I think go De Bruyne at the moment if you've got him, based on what we know with Haaland's ligament damage, but he might well be back for this game week, and if there's a decent chance of him getting substantial minutes, then I think you go with a Norwegian once more this game week. But on to predicted points then, and Kevin De Bruyne, we can see where he ranks out of the entire top 10, and unsurprisingly, it is top, and he's still way ahead. Cancelo, who we saw quite far behind De Bruyne on predicted points for this week, is actually the one in second, and then Gabriel Jesus is in third, just above Harry Kane on 4.9. So Salah down below, Erling Haaland's there. He makes it in, taking into account the injury doubt and the minutes concern that he is right now based on the current news. He's on 4.9 predicted points, which would have been shooting up massively and would be up there, if not higher than Kevin De Bruyne, if he were fully fit, the Norwegian. We've then got Grealish, David Raya, Ederson, and Bernardo making up the top 10. So 2 goalkeepers making it into the top 10, which we don't see all too often. Is interesting to note, but not much else of relevance there inside the top 10. A few other Man City attackers in Grealish and Bernardo, but I think Foden might come back into the 11 this week, so I'll be very hesitant to bring in another Man City attacker like that who is in guaranteed minutes, and I think most people at the moment are already probably sat on triple Manchester City players. So we'll move on to the upcoming fixtures then and have a bit of a discussion about these last 2 game weeks and who we should be targeting. Game week 15 and game week 16. After that, we've got unlimited transfers, so we don't need to worry about any fixtures from there onwards, but I'm sure you guys who are watching know that. Unsurprisingly, Manchester City still top for the attacking fixture difficulty with those games against Fulham and Brentford at home, which look very nice. But Everton in second could offer some nice differentials amongst their ranks. Dominic Calvert-Lewin could be an option to replace Ivan Toney or Alexander Mitrovic if you want to take him out for those games that Fulham have against Man City and Man United before the December break. We've then got Nottingham Forest and West Ham United. West Ham United, with 2 home games in particular, look very nice, and they're one of the teams to be in both the attacking fixture difficulty top 5 and the defensive fixture difficulty top 5 if you look over to the right hand side. So I really like the look of going for a few West Ham players. We've got Scamacca, you can see on the graphic, could offer an option. Jared Bowen, of course, despite the fact that he's going to be off penalties, which does concern me a little bit. But one man that I've been eyeing up is Ben Rama, who's at a very cheap price point at the moment, very low ownership, and could be the one who is on penalties. We saw him take the penalty in the last game when Bowen wasn't on the pitch. Rama would be one of the picks I'd be looking at from West Ham. Tottenham in attack at the moment, probably wouldn't be looking to bring in any more players from Spurs. Nottingham Forest, you might be wanting to look at an attacker as a cheap differential. You could go for him. But I'd be looking across at some more defensive assets now. And Brighton are actually top for that, with Wolves and Aston Villa in their next 2 games. And another differential that I really like the look at is maybe going for Estupiñán, who looked really great in Brighton's last fixture. One thing we have seen with Estupiñán this season is he's been substituted early in quite a few games, so that is one thing to consider, but he's been playing pretty well recently, and especially shone in that game against Chelsea, so his confidence looks high, and I think he could offer a really nice pick if you're wanting to go for a slightly more differential, cheap option at the back. We've then got Nottingham Forest, but I won't be going near their defence personally. I recommend you probably don't too. And then Man City, who as already mentioned, you're going to have 3 Man City players right now. Most likely, Kevin De Bruyne looks the only standout one to bring in if you have that opportunity available for you. And then we've got Bournemouth and West Ham in the top 5 as well. So, Dominic Solanke looks a very nice option. If you've got him in your team at the moment, keep him there. You're probably quite lucky to not have to have Mitrovic or Toney to transfer out, who are going to be the main striker out options right now. So yeah, the striker replacements from this list we're looking at, we're going to be looking at Scamacca, who I mentioned, Dominic Calvert-Lewin at Everton, and then Callum Wilson as well. So Newcastle don't actually make the top 5, but they do have 2 relatively nice fixtures in the next 2 games against Southampton and Chelsea, but not the best, judged by what the Fantasy Football Fix algorithm has to say on the data. And then from West Ham for defence, you can look at Aaron Cresswell, who's looked very good recently, creating a lot of big chances. Could have had an assist in that game against Manchester United as well, if it wasn't for Zuma's header being spectacularly saved by David De Gea. So I think Cresswell looks a really nice defensive option to go for. And we've seen that West Ham have been very, very solid defensively in recent weeks at home. And they've got 2 home games in the next 2 as well, which plays very nicely into some hopeful clean sheets for the Hammers. So yeah, that's going to wrap up this episode of your quick guide for Game Week 15. Let me know what you thought of it down below in the comments, and did you find it useful in any way? Leave a thumbs up if you did enjoy, and of course remember to subscribe if you're new to the Fantasy Football Fix YouTube channel. But I'll catch you very soon for Eddie versus the algorithm. Goodbye.